So it looks like we are live. So welcome. This is Michael Tillinger. We are live on Facebook on this camera, and we are live on YouTube on this camera. So welcome. Today is the 11th of December 2024, and welcome to podcast number 6 in the One Small Town podcast series. Today we're going to be talking about a number of things. I'll give you the subjects in bullet points without going into too much detail. First of all, we'll be talking about the final goal, the final destination. Where are we going with One Small Town? What is the ultimate goal? What do we desire to achieve? That utopian, beautiful world, beautiful life that we all strive for. That we're going to talk about that. Number 2, we're going to talk about the fact that this is not a new idea, and we're going to discuss the reasons why intentional communities around the world have historically not succeeded. They generally speaking, 99.9%, if not more, of intentional communities have failed us, and therefore they're not a good example for us to follow. But that's one of the areas that we've learned from in One Small Town. We'll discuss that. We'll talk about the importance of strategy and planning, how we plan the launch and the implementation of One Small Town. This is absolutely critical, and an area that a lot of people, I guess, miss and forget about. Remember that a lack of planning is a planning to fail. Failure to plan is a plan to fail. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about the benefits to investors. How do investors benefit from getting involved in One Small Town? And how can our communities and the members in our towns, in our communities, how can we fund our own businesses so that we're not dependent on funders, dependent on outside help, outside funders, which ultimately becomes potentially outside influence and manipulation, which in this case, it can't happen. But how is it possible for us to help fund and finance our own businesses, from small ones to large ones? We'll talk about One Small Town Stores, the importance of the One Small Town store, which becomes a game changer. The moment we launch and we open the One Small Town store, this in a nutshell becomes a game changer, and that's when One Small Town literally takes off around the world and becomes an incredibly powerful tool and a powerful model for every country, every town around the world to follow, because of the connectedness through the One Small Town stores that become channels for our produce, products, retail, sales, distribution, etc., innovation, etc. So the One Small Town store is a very important aspect of the One Small Town initiative. If we have time left, I'll talk about, just give you some ideas that I share with ambassadors, ideas about when you get together and you want to launch One Small Town, the think tank and the thought process to go through about ideas for businesses. What kind of businesses should we look at to launch in our community, and so forth. So we'll discuss that if there's time left. And then I have a bunch of questions that people, very glad to report that a number of people filled in the form online and asked a bunch of questions. So I'll go through those questions before the end of this podcast. So let's get going. First of all, I need to start with some really exciting news, an update on our art gallery, and it is just absolutely fabulous. The art gallery is taking off. We've had a number of artists that have already signed up. I'm just looking at the connectivity here. It looks like it's okay on Facebook. Give me a thumbs up if Facebook is okay here, please. We've really had a tough time being out in the country with connectivity, but I'm determined to do this. So give me a thumbs up on Facebook if you guys can hear me and see me okay, and if I'm not breaking up too much. So the great news is that a number of artists have started to sign up and upload their incredible works of art, from fine art paintings to beautiful sculptures in clay and also in ceramic and in bronze. Absolutely immaculate works of art that artists are are joining and signing up and uploading onto the One Small Town art gallery. So you may not see all of the art yet because we're still assessing, processing, checking the back end, making sure that everything is working. Remember, this is something we've started. We started this from scratch. We didn't buy an off-the-shelf package. We bought, we are coding and programming everything ourselves from scratch. So it's a huge job. As I mentioned last week, we cannot be held to ransom by any outside third-party providers that may hold us to ransom if we don't do certain things. And this is why we've had to move everything from our website to our platform to a private server and private secure service and environment where we have full control over everything, because otherwise, people come bearing flags of friendship, and people say we want to help, we want to get involved, and often it doesn't end well. Sometimes it doesn't end well, and quite often it doesn't end well because many of these flag bearers are often wolves in sheep's clothing. Now, that's the good news, is that the art gallery is getting better and better with better works of art. We are fine-tuning and testing everything and making sure that everything is working. And as soon as we are comfortable with everything and we're confident, we'll then release all the works of art so that they're visible to the people and everyone around the world. So let's start today's discussion, and that is the final goal, the final destination. Where are we going with One Small Town? And that is a very important philosophical, personal, emotional, spiritual, and a reality question as well, rooted in the hardcore reality that we face every day. How do we live? How do we survive? How do we find work? How do we make enough money to put food and bread on the table? All of these questions are what drives us towards the One Small Town initiative, where people have realized that we live like slaves. We are born into a system of economic slavery, and we die. From the first breath we breathe to the last breath we breathe out, we have to abide by the rules that are created for us. You can fight it, but you're not going to win it. In some cases, if you do want to win it, it's going to take you decades and decades, sometimes centuries, to change that system. So we need to do something else and something different. And that's what we're doing with One Small Town. We realize that the power lies with the people. And we often forget this. We forget that we, the people, have the power. We vote for our so-called leaders to represent us, to do things for us that we want them to do for us, not what they want to do for themselves. But as we know, politics, no matter what country you're in, is a dirty business. And you find unsavory characters that are attracted to the political arena. You'll see it all over the world, no matter which country you go to. There are very good people in politics. So, I'm not saying everyone in politics is dirty. That is not the case. I mean, we went into politics. I went into politics with the Ubuntu Party in South Africa, that then also ran in the UK and then almost in Canada, the USA, and in Australia. So I learned the hard way that politics is not the channel or the way to solve the problems, because then you become an opposition. You oppose everybody because you want to insert or assert your way and your ideas. So we, the people, hand over our power to the politicians that we appoint into positions of power, because we believe they're going to do something to help us. We believe they're going to serve us. They're supposed to be our servants. Well, then we realize that they're not really serving us. And this serfdom or slavery system is connected to the financial system and the central banking system around the world. We live with that system all our lives, from the first breath we take until the last breath we breathe out. We are enslaved by the current socioeconomic system. You can argue about that, but ultimately, hopefully you'll eventually realize that that is the case. So we need to find a way to navigate between these lines, navigate between the rules and regulations and acts and bills and all this crap that is thrown at us. We need to navigate between that and be smart and be clever and use the tools of enslavement that are created to enslave us. And we use those tools to help us liberate ourselves by not fighting it, by creating an alternative system that will slowly but surely make the existing system obsolete. And that's how you change a system, not by fighting it. And I know I have to repeat this over and over again in case there are new people that haven't seen the other podcasts or don't know enough about One Small Town, right? So our objective, our final goal is not to fight the system. Our final goal is to create a new system without any violence, opposition, or conflict that makes the current system obsolete. And we do it gently, so there's no shock. And we do it one small town at a time. That's why it's called One Small Town. The power lies with the people. So what happens when the people in a community, in a small town, which becomes a closely knit community that work together, that support each other, that power grows. If you are in a small community or a town, it could be in the city, no matter where you are, if you work alone, you are not strong. The only thing you have is you, possibly your family in support, and that's it. That's the extent of your, the power that you can assert, or the influence. Let's use that word, the influence that you can assert. But the moment you have 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 people in a small town or a community that stand together, that are united in a common goal, a common vision, and a common purpose, things change very quickly. And this is the exciting part about One Small Town. We realize that the people always have the power. The power lies with the people. And the One Small Town initiative, to a great extent, is based on that common power of the people. When the people choose to work together, to stand together, to cooperate, to collaborate, and achieve their common goals that are good for the community, for the members, for individual members, the collective members, but also for the entire community. And we do that with a number of things. And those number of things are part of the implementation plan that we have crafted and developed and evolved and masterfully put together into what is the implementation plan for One Small Town right now. Is it a final plan? Is it foolproof? Absolutely not. We're still learning. Every week, every month, every day, we do something in the various towns around the world. We have done so many things over the last 15 years, since the idea was launched and since we attempted the first small town in Canada in late 2017. We have learned so much, things that don't work. Why don't they work? And how we should change them and eventually mold this and use all those hardcore experiences to create the platform and the strategy that we now have in the One Small Town initiative and the management team that is slowly growing with incredibly talented and smart people that are all humanitarians, that want the best for the world, that want the best for their communities, the best for their families. And that's where we're going. So ultimately, the power lies with the people. And once we choose to work together and cooperate in a small community, we can do pretty much anything and everything because it'll be collective bargaining. We use our collective bargaining strength and collective bargaining power to get our way, whether it's through changing the laws or changing the systems or bylaws or acts or bills or whatever legal structures there are that may be hurdles or obstacles to what we want to achieve for ourselves. We use those systems. We use that as in a collective bargaining system. That's what makes One Small Town so exciting and so powerful. So it's not just me trying to fight, argue against the municipality because they're not fixing the roads or they're not doing this or not doing that. We're not standing united. And that changes everything. And especially in the countries, this becomes very, very important in the countries where the mayors are appointed by the people who live in that town. Now, in some countries like South Africa and many others, our mayors are not appointed. We don't elect our mayors in our towns. Our mayors are appointed by the political party that won the election in that town. And that is basically a communist system, right? It's just disguised as democracy. That is not democracy. So in the countries like the USA and I forget, there are many countries where the mayors are elected by the people in your town. That gives you as a community incredibly powerful bargaining position and collective bargaining strength. And that's really where we're going with this. With that kind of bargaining strength, we can start to change things. We can start moving towards a completely self-sufficient community. That's where we're heading. We're heading towards turning our town, and when I say town, I mean community, that work together. All right, so you'll hear me using the word town and community intermittently. I'll throw them around. So it means the same thing. And when I say small town, it's anything from, 2,000, 3,000 people to 20, 30, or 50,000 people. Even towns of 50,000 people could be utilized or could be seen as small towns in some countries. But anything bigger than that, it starts to becoming problematic because the town becomes too big and we need to sign up many people to have a large representation in that town. So you can imagine that if we launch this in a town of 5,000 people or 2,000 people, for us to spread the message among 2,000 people and say, listen, we're going to do this together. Let's start working on this together, and let's really make sure we get this right. It's very easy to get 50% or 60 or 70% or 90% of the people in the town to sign up and all participate. That's very easy. But the larger the population of the town becomes, the more complex it's going to become, or challenging it's going to become, to get people to sign up to join your Once More Town initiative. So keep this in mind. This is all part of the things that we've learned over the many years. The larger the town, the more people you have to sign up, and the more challenging it becomes. The smaller the town, up to a certain point, the easier it is to sign up members and that represent a large percentage of your community, right? So that's where we're going, to create completely self-sufficient communities, because we choose to cooperate and collaborate on every level, and look at the opportunities that we have in our communities. Look at the businesses that we can start quickly without too much funding, without too much infrastructure, businesses that will take medium amount of time, and then more complex and big businesses with big profits and big turnovers and big profits that'll take a longer time for us to launch, to plan, and to initiate. So we put this together ourselves, right? And this is where I will, and the people that have been working with me over the many years now, will help you, will guide you, will advise you, will share our experiences with you, so you don't rush off, making mistakes that we've already learned. So we all learn from our mistakes that we've made in the past. And every time we do something and it succeeds, it's going to be a great example for everybody else to do it that way, the way that it was done, so that it was successful. Every time we do something and it fails, we come back and we say, okay, it failed. This initiative or this business or this project failed for the following reasons. Let's not do that again. Let's look at this again, plan it again, and relaunch this the way that we now understand will work better. So that's what this is. There are no failures, right? Remember, there are no failures in life. We keep learning from our mistakes and coming back stronger, better, wiser, and more successful. That's what happens. And that's what Once More Town's all about. No failures, right? We're looking at a utopian community. And I like to use the word utopian because it's a kind of community where we can achieve anything we set our mind to. Literally, it's a place where people with talents and skills can use those skills and talents, because the community will appreciate those skills and talents, and they'll be rewarded not only emotionally and in an egotistic way. What's the word I'm looking for? Feeling gratitude that they are being appreciated, that they appreciated and honored in their community. So it's gratitude from your community towards you if you're doing something good that's uplifting the community. And it goes back, gratitude from you towards the community, because the community loves you for who you are and what you're doing to uplift and upgrade and improve the community. So this becomes a complete symbiotic relationship between the community, the many members of the community, the individuals, the things we do, the things we choose to do, how we decide to do it, and how we plan to do it, and how we launch it. Make sure that we work as hard as we can collectively to make it a success. And this is how we grow this beautiful utopian community, a completely self-sustained community where we have everything we need for ourselves, from obviously things like food and abundance. And when I talk about abundance and prosperity, abundance and prosperity can be many things. It can be abundance of food, an abundance of friends, an abundance of money and profits from our businesses, an abundance of health, an abundance of education that is truly educating our children, an abundance of technology and engineering, an abundance of innovators, an abundance of transport. It can be abundance of everything, and that's what we're going for. We identify the weak links, the areas that we are lacking in our communities where we would like it to improve, and that's what we choose to do. Keep in mind that there are community projects that take money and effort to do, and which is not done by our municipalities. And again, I repeat this over and over again. And those are the projects and the community upliftment projects that we will work towards and work on to uplift and improve and fix our town, make it beautiful, paint the houses, pave the streets with arts and culture and statues, build our own art gallery, build our own theater, build our own music studios, build our own recreation centers, build our own sports activities if we don't have them, and so forth. These are the things we choose to do for ourselves if our government or our municipalities is not doing that for us. And this is where our collective strength and our collective efforts come in. So we don't need money to do most of these things. We just need ourselves and our sweat equity, our labor. And if we do need money for some of these projects, whether it's the bigger of the projects, the sports, arts, and culture, we then find a way to raise money for our community projects so that we can do it. And those mechanisms are all in place. Okay, let me remind you, this is why the One Small Town Initiative has taken so many years to craft and mold and put together so that it's now in this amazing stage of maturity and evolved state of maturity, where we've learned all these things and we have created the platform, the One Small Town platform, that's the home for all these tools to help anyone in any small town to put all these things together, right? So without people running off with your money, without running off with the funding, being able to have complete transparency so all the members can see how each project is doing, how many people worked in this project, how many people worked in that project, how much profit are we making, building laptops, or how much profit are we making building bicycles, or are we building computer chips? We can go real high tech with this. It's entirely up to you and your community what you choose to do. So we are building the foundations of a totally utopian community where everything we need is there for us. How we run our restaurants and our foods and distribution of food, how we build our homes for ourselves, etc. So everything is there. And just imagine, waking up in the morning in your community, and this ultimately would be the perfect kind of scenario, right? The kind of town that I want to live in, the kind of community that I want to live in, and I'm sure the kind of community that millions, let me rephrase that, billions of people around the world want to live in. And I know this from the hundreds of thousands of emails and the people that I've had to deal with, that I was fortunate enough to deal with since 2007, when I started to promote this initiative, really actively started to promote it. The hundreds of thousands, could be more than 1 million people by now. I have no idea, but it's a lot. How so many people resonate with the idea of living in this beautiful utopian kind of world where they have no more fear or anxiety or anxiousness or stress about survival, or stress about security and safety, or stress about not having enough food, or stress about the education, that their child isn't getting the right education, or stress about losing their job, or stress about anything you can think of. This is the town that we're building. This is the kind of town I want to live in, and I want to wake up in every morning of my life. And I know that there are billions of people that resonate with that thought. So imagining waking up in your one small town and you don't have any worries. You don't have to worry about anything. All you have to think of is, what am I going to do today that is what I've agreed to contribute towards my community, towards helping to uplift my community. And that could be 3 hours, it could be more, it could be less. It could be 3 hours a week. That's the minimum that, the current One Small Town requirement is that every member contributes a minimum of 3 hours per week. The rest of the time is up to you, but you can still choose to contribute 3 hours a week or 3 hours a day every time you wake up, or as many hours as you want towards doing something for your community. It could be participating in upliftment projects. If you love the arts, you might want to get involved in the arts and work in, whether it's, working on a theater or in the ballet company, or working in the art studio teaching art, or going to learn new artistic skills, or whatever it is. So you can choose what you're going to do, as long as you contribute those 3 hours a week, or if you choose 3 hours a day, towards either our businesses that we've launched or the community upliftment projects. And then over and above that, you know that on Wednesdays you have to go and report at the hospital, because you've said that you've volunteered that you want to help clean the hospital, because that's your passion. You're like Monica in Friends. You want to clean. You want things clean, and you want things sanitized, right? So you're going to go, you volunteered, and I'm using a crazy wild example. You volunteered that you'll go and help be one of the cleaning people in the hospital. And that's what you do. You do that once a week for 3 hours. If they need you more than that, they'll let you know. Or you might know that on Tuesday mornings between so-and-so and between 9 and midday, you go and work in the lumber factory, where you have to do some work in the lumber factory, or in the dairy, where you have to, carry milk from one place to another, or be a security guard somewhere to make sure that nobody steals the cheese, or whatever it is, right? So you wake up in this community where you don't have to worry about anything. Everything that we do helps to provide food for ourselves, and everything we need is provided for, because we've taken care of everything we need. It's literally like becoming a self-sustained country. Now we're turning into a self-sustaining community. Everything we need. Obviously, there's not always going to be everything we need, because we can't manufacture or produce everything we need. We may not be able to produce toilet paper, or we may not be able to produce laptops, or manufacture laptops, or car parts, or whatever. So those are the things we're going to still need to bring into our town. And those are the things that we're going to bring and set up businesses to sell that to ourselves, which still means, and to others, passerbys and tourists and whoever comes through. So we're still generating an income from the members of our own community and anybody else. So there's this beautiful blend that we create between businesses that we've started that provide everything we need, and other businesses that provide us with the things that we don't have, that we can't manufacture, that we can't create. And this provides this beautiful, colorful tapestry in which everything, and an environment in which everything we need and choose is possible. Now we need to get there. So imagine, not only, so I'm just looking at my notes here. So it's also financial security. Keep in mind that every business we start, the more profit it makes, the more of that profit gets distributed to you as a member and the other members that are contributing towards your One Small Town. Because the profits from every business we start, now imagine we start 100 businesses in our community. The profits are all pooled together every month and distributed equally to every contributing member. So you have to remain compliant. You have to contribute a minimum of 3 hours a week to receive that distribution of the profits. If you don't, then you don't receive the distribution of the profits. So you have to find those 12 hours a week, 12 hours a month, 3 hours a week to contribute. And I'll talk more in other podcasts about the platform, how the platform works, and how the system has been set up to be able to manage all of these interactions, all of these things. And that's why it is, as I said, has taken so much longer than we hoped, but is now a beautiful functioning platform that we need to start using. So in essence, the ball is in your court. Like I said last week as well, the ball is in your court. The platform is ready. We're ready. We're now looking for the right kind of people to become the ambassadors with the right kind of profile, because to sign up and become ambassadors either for a country or for your one small town. What we've learned over the last 3 to 4 years was some very hard lessons about appointing ambassadors and the mistakes we've made. Some of the ambassadors were fantastic people, wonderful people, but they weren't the right profile to manage this kind of thing. They just didn't have the right kind of experience. They might have been a creative person that was passionate about the arts, or an engineer that was passionate about engineering and factory work, but they weren't the kind of person that could manage literally like a CEO, to manage many different facets and make sure that all the many different businesses that we set up in our community are managed to the best of their capacity. That's ultimately what the One Small Town ambassador needs to do at a town level. It's like a CEO managing many departments, making sure that the people deliver, the members of our community deliver, and making sure that we make as much profit as we can, so that the people that run those businesses do the job that they possibly can. And if they don't, the community members, because community members will decide on this, because they're going to get less profits. If the business is not run efficiently and successfully, then they're going to be less profits to distribute to our members. So our members will decide, hold on, this business is not run well. We need to find different management for this business. And then we'll find different management, and new management, better management. So it always comes back to the people. So in a way, I'm taking it back to the very first statement when I said the power lies with the people. And now you see how even the decision-making in our towns and communities, decision-making, if one of our businesses is not run efficiently, we as a community can choose to say, listen, let's remove that CEO, that manager of that business, because they're messing it up. And we don't want our business to be messed up. So we then choose to find a better manager for that specific business. So you see how everything we do is interconnected. There's a immediate reaction, a chain reaction that affects everything in our community. And that's why we have the power to fix things very quickly. I'll also talk about the voting system that we've created, like almost a direct democracy. It's not available yet, but it will be available in hopefully in the next 12 months to 24 months, as the One Small Town communities start to grow, where each community will have their own voting system, how to vote somebody in or out, and make decisions together that's best for the community and so forth. We're working on that so that it is a very smart system that really benefits the community and benefits the individuals that want to help the community and not help themselves. And that is a very hard lesson we have learned, I must tell you. And, again, I can talk on the subject for the whole week and not even get to any of the other points, because we have learned so much, and we've learned hardcore lessons, sometimes gut-wrenching lessons that are really depressing because of some of the behavior of some of the people that join us, that we realize are completely selfish. And often the people, as I said, often the people that come waving the biggest flag of friendship become your biggest potential enemy if they don't get their own way. So just keep that in mind. We need to keep this, just the experiences that I've had with this are absolutely shocking. And they continue. It hasn't stopped. But from all these experiences, we have learned how to appoint our ambassadors. And we now have a very robust and I believe solid new way of how to screen the ambassadors, what questions to ask them, what skill sets we are looking for, what experience we are looking for before we appoint the ambassadors to start leading their One Small Towns and their communities and launching this. So that's it. I think I've covered pretty much the final goal. Imagine waking up in a community where you don't have to worry about anything, from personal security, financial security, food security, education, fun, sports, arts, and culture. Everything is there, and you can just choose what you want to do, because whatever you do will ultimately help benefit your community. I know that I used to, and I'm wondering if I should go into this in this example now, because again, we only have an hour supposedly I know that has been more, closer to an hour and a half every week. But so, imagine you live in a small town and you're the only sculptor in the small town. So you start your own sculpting, workshop. And before you know, more and more people want to come and learn how to do sculpting from you. So slowly but surely, you start teaching classes, and the people are learning sculpturing work and so forth. And you realize that, hold on, you can turn this into a community business as well, a community sculpting school, so that you start getting the benefit from any future profits from that school, and also getting a salary from that, and also being able to do not only continue training, but turn it into a proper business with the support of the entire community, to turn it into a proper sculpture school, right? And so you go from a sculptor to suddenly now the sculpting godfather or godmother in the community, and it changes your life. And I'm just using that as a crazy, example. It might resonate with some, it might not yet, sync with others, or the penny may not drop immediately with some others. But anything you choose to do for your community will ultimately, if it's handled properly, it goes from a hobby to becoming a proper community service initiative, to potentially a business that provides services or produces products that become exportable. That's how these things can develop. You might just think about any of the hobbies you're doing, how that could ultimately turn into a successful business that you run, that creates something that's exportable or shareable internationally through the internet, that makes a profit. So this is what the One Small Town Initiative is. No one homeless, no one hungry, everybody with something to do, everyone respected and honored for who they are, with all the opportunities open and available if they want to pursue those opportunities to improve their skills and talents while they're helping and uplifting their community. Right, let's go to the next point for today. And again, if there are questions, our questionnaire is now ready. Go to our website, onesmalltown.org. Go to the Q&A, go to the menu, scroll down, go to the Q&A page. On top of the Q&A page, you'll see, ask Michael a question. Click on that button. It'll open a form. Fill in the form and just click send. And at the end of this, I'm going to answer some of those questions that have come on that form for the first time today. So now, One Small Town or intentional communities is not a new idea. All right, let's make that clear. And I get emails, hundreds of emails from people all over the world saying, I've started this community here and I've started that community there, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And my heart goes out to these people, and I love it that they've done that, and I love that they started these intentional communities, because everyone that starts this, generally speaking, and now this is a general comment, most people that start intentional communities do it for the right humanitarian reasons. They want to create something like a One Small Town, this utopian community that I've just described. But unfortunately, they're going about it the wrong way. And this is why One Small Town has taken all these years to put together, to learn from those experiences. And very, very few of these intentional communities have succeeded and have survived. And none of them is an example that we can use for the rest of the world. None of them is an example that One Small Town is doing right now. What One Small Town has done is we've used their experiences and their failures, looked at where it's gone wrong, where things have gone wrong, and make sure that we work that into our model to make sure we never, ever do that, where these intentional communities have gone wrong, right? And why they collapse and fail. And it generally starts with people with a wonderful idea. I have a big farm, I have a big piece of land, let me open it up and invite people to come and live here. And we're going to start growing a whole bunch of food, and we're going to start manufacturing things and maybe make our own oil from, melting plastic, or we're going to, put a turbine in the river and create our own generator because there's a lovely fast flowing river. So we'll have electricity. And so there are all these wonderful ideas, and some of them have been fantastic, right? The problem with all of this is that the idea is always a wonderful, humanitarian, puristic idea with all good intentions. And it attracts a lot of people with the same kind of mindset, with all good intentions. But the moment you get those people together and they start living in a community of sorts that has been thrown together out of the blue. So people either live in tents, or they build a log cabin, or they put up a teepee, or God knows what, right? You find these communities all over the world. And they're very happy in the beginning, and they start to grow food. They plow the land and they plant their seeds, and everyone seems happy because it's all new and the excitement levels are high. But as the months go by, the friction and the arguments begin. Because if there's no plan and no structure as to who's responsible for what and who's going to be managing certain projects, because you can't group manage projects, that's never ever going to work. People need responsibilities. If you just allow a bunch of people to grow a bunch of food and hope that you're going to harvest that food with a bunch of people and somehow get that food into a storage place and then somehow utilize that food for the benefit of your community, you got a whole nother thing coming. That pretty much does not work. And that works with that problem arises with building and construction, with manufacturing things, with producing food and all kinds of food products and all the down the line derivatives of the different foods that we grow. Because we can't just survive on food. We need food, but once we've grown enough food, how do we store it? How do we make sure we've got food for the whole year? And then what else? We need water, we need electricity, we need accommodation, we need healthcare, and so forth. And unless you have people that manage and run those different sectors, those different areas of your community, people with real responsibility, and not someone that's going to run it for a month or two and then say, oh, I've had enough of this. I'm not getting paid for this. Sorry, I'll give up. I can't handle this anymore. The entire thing collapses. And that's what happens with these intentional communities. People start with the greatest intentions, and they go do their amazing work and they get involved. But sooner or later, people start to argue. Who's responsible for this? And you didn't do that, and you didn't do this. And before you know, the whole thing erupts in a bloody giant mess and an eruption of fighting and arguing. And instead of succeeding in the businesses and the food that we want to grow, it all starts to become a giant bun fight. And before you know it, people start to leave, people start to sue each other, and you have no idea how bad and how serious some of the fighting and the infighting in these intentional communities can get. People start suing each other. People start having affairs with each other's partners, and then you start having love quarrels between people and families. It becomes a bloody mess. And I've seen this, I've experienced some of this. I've spoken to people that have started these intentional communities and listened to their woes and complaints. And it is a sad situation. And this is why we've taken so much effort and so much careful consideration and so much planning and learning and implementing to put the One Small Town structure together. We cannot have the kind of failures that you find in intentional communities. And this is where the importance of planning and strategy comes into play. And that's point number 3 that I wanted to talk about today. Planning and strategy. Absolutely. But planning and strategy is one thing. You can have great, project managers and planners and strategists, but who's going to implement it? Now you need the people that are going to implement the plans. And so now you got project managers that need to go and implement those plans. But without specialists and without people that know how to do a certain thing, without a farmer that knows how to plant seeds and how to plant seedlings and when to plant the seedlings out into the field, or how to build a tunnel, or how to build a carpentry factory, or how to build a steel factory, or how to weld, or how to do all these things, without experts, or how to bake bread, how to set up a bakery or a dairy and make cheese and butter and all that stuff, and how to look after cows and how to grow food for cows and all these things. It's all integrated, right? So unless you have experts in each and every one of these areas, it is a disjointed and a dislocated system. So yeah, one might be successful, but unless you know what to do with the products that you manufacture and produce, they're going to end up rotting in a pile somewhere, or rotting in the store, or you be putting furniture into a storeroom somewhere and you're not selling your furniture, right? So there's a planning, strategy, and planning is absolutely critical from the word go. And that goes into planning your community upliftment projects, right? How are we going to help the orphans and the old age homes by providing them food on a daily basis? How are we going to do that? Where are we going to cook that food? Do we have enough food from among ourselves to make sure that we can do that? How are we going to provide food to our members every day after they've contributed their 3 hours? How are we going to, and you need to plan all these projects. How are we going to fix the potholes in the roads? Do we have tar? Where do we get tar? Can we make our own tar? All these things. So the planning and the strategy is absolutely critical. Then the implementation and the project management is equally critical. You can't have one without the other. Now, all of these systems are beautifully laid out on the One Small Town platform, all connected and integrated. And this is why I keep talking about it, and I'll keep talking about it until I'm blue in the face. That's why it makes One Small Town so completely unique in the world. There is no other initiative like it. And once you start adding all the other components, including the One Small Town Infinity Token, our asset-backed private membership community token, whose value cannot be crashed, token that you cannot lose, tokens that will never run out. We create the tokens ourselves every time we contribute 3 hours towards our community or our businesses. Once you add all this into the platform, you realize what an incredibly powerful system this is. From spending all these years learning from all the experiences, from all the different intentional communities, and as I mentioned before, including the kibbutzes in Israel, that at one stage for several decades were a very popular place for people to go to. So strategy and planning, absolutely critical. And that's all part of what you, as an ambassador, plus your implementation team, your management team, plus all the other smart people in your community will work on to put together this plan, what we call the 12-month or the 24-month implementation plan. This is absolutely critical. Once that plan is in place, everything becomes simple. So keep in mind, this is what we've found out, I guess, the hard way, and a very expensive way as well, because we've tried so many different things, and realizing that without a minimum of a 12-month plan, preferably a 24-month plan, with a number of lucrative businesses that you can start in your community, with the clever and smart people and the experts in your community, what kind of businesses can you start? All the community upliftment projects that you should be doing to make your town beautiful. All of that goes into your 24-month plan. Once that is in place, everything becomes really easy. And by everything, I also include the fundraising for the different businesses in your community, and or potentially for your community upliftment projects that need funding, because you need raw materials for some of those projects. I must tell you, one of my favorite community projects, community upliftment projects, and I'm just sharing this completely because it just came to mind. It was one of the community projects I floated to one of our ambassadors in the small towns that we've tried, that where the ambassadors turned out not to be the right profile, and they couldn't handle the weight. So we've had to put it on hold. So all the small towns that we've launched in the past that you no longer see on the website and so forth, doesn't mean it's a failure. It means we now know the situation, we know what's possible, we know what we can achieve in those small towns. Now we just need to find the right ambassador in that town to go back and relaunch with the right strategy, the right 24-month plan, and implement it properly. But let me just tell you, one of my favorite, absolutely favorite projects, community upliftment projects for any small town anywhere in the world, is what I call is turning our town into a food forest. And it's because of our special seed treatment technology that we can take any kind of seed and treat it so that it becomes like a super seed. So whether it's a peach tree or an apple tree or whatever trees we have, nut trees, whether it's corn or cabbages or tomatoes, whatever seeds we treat will grow a lot faster, a lot better, and produce really healthy fruit with non-GMO genetics, non-GMO organic genetics, right? So we can literally look, and I've suggested that becomes a project that is done by high school students and young adults or anyone, but preferably high school students that plan for their future prosperity in their own town, to plan what kind of fruit trees can grow in our community. Is it citrus? Is it, the trees that grow in a cold climate and so forth? And plan the whole layout of your town, the streets, what fruit trees you'll plant on what streets, plan how the trees will be planted and so forth. And then once you've got the number of trees and the kind of trees that you need, then we go and we get the seeds and we treat them with our seed treatment machines, and we give those seeds to the high school students or the people involved in that project, and they then plan this very meticulously. It's an absolutely meticulously planned project. Where are the trees planted? On the sidewalks of the town. We must get the permit and make sure we get the permission and get all the right tools and dig the holes and make sure the holes are filled with the right compost and manure and whatever. Make sure there's pipes that feed water to the trees and so forth. Get the community involved so that every member of every community agrees to have a tree in front of their house, a tree in their front garden, and a tree in their back garden. So in essence, we're looking at 3 trees per household in every community. So now imagine that, and we put that together when we go out and we plant these trees and turn our town into a food forest that 3 or 4 years from now is going to start delivering fruits for our community. And 10 years from now, or from that moment, we're literally going to have a food forest in our community where just from the food trees, the fruit and nut trees that we've planted, we will have sufficient food for every member of our community. That is just one idea that I've floated out there to some of our ambassadors. And it was met with great excitement. And for all kinds of reasons, we never got to launch it. But I know that the day is coming that we will launch it. And hopefully that day is going to come soon in 2025. Right, so strategy and planning, I think I've said enough about that. All of this is part of the One Small Town platform, and this is why it has taken so long. Right, now the next point is benefit to investors. Where are we now? We have done almost an hour, 10 minutes to go. So benefit to investors. Now, keep in mind that we're creating a cohesive, united community where we work together, we cooperate, we collaborate, we identify the opportunities that we can make a success from, whether it's a business, successful businesses. We'll know what we're capable of based on the kind of people we have in our community, whether it's engineers, whether it's programmers, whether it's artists or music producers or sheep shearers or welders or whatever. We'll know what we can do. obviously, agriculture and food is always at the top of that pyramid. And I just need to state that over and over again. Always focus on the agriculture side and growing food and creating food security. But I'm not going to get distracted by that. Let's come back to the benefits to investors. So we know what businesses we are able to start. We write the business plans and we recognize, wow, this, I didn't realize that, growing blueberries is going to be such a lucrative business because we've got hands, we can pick them. We don't need to automate. We've got all these people in our town. We got 20,000 people. We can allocate, 1,000 people a day to picking blueberries if we need. So in essence, we could build one of the biggest blueberry farms in the world, and that could become our main cornerstone business. I'm using wild, broad stroke examples. You can turn this into any example you want in your own, creative mind. Or, we can say we can build the biggest wood factory or furniture factory because we got so much wood coming from the lumber yard, and we can get all our creative designers to design the most immaculate furniture, most wonderful furniture, and we have the carpenter skills that can train the people, and we can start a huge furniture manufacturing carpentry shop. These are just examples. So once you've got your plan and your business plans, and they show good profits and good return on investment, that's pretty much it, because investors are looking for businesses and ideas that show good profit and a good return on investment, right? So this is why that 12-month plan or the 24-month plan and the business plans that you and your team put together are so critical. Now, the difference between an investor investing into your furniture factory or another furniture factory somewhere outside of a one small town, there's a huge difference. And the big difference is that everyone in your town and in your community is a co-owner, is a partner in making that business a success, is part profit share holder, right, of every business. That means that all our members will do everything they can to make each of our businesses as successful as we can make them. So we'll make sure that if we have a delivery of wood to our furniture factory, it's not going to be a week late. We'll make sure that it is on time and it's ahead of time, so the guys don't have to stop producing because they don't have enough wood. If we start a pharmaceutical factory, we'll make sure that we have all the raw materials and all the ingredients we need. Are we growing the medicinal plants? Are we doing whatever we need, or getting the raw materials from a chemical factory that we've set up ourselves to feed a pharmaceutical factory to make the pharmaceuticals that we've chosen to make? So we ensure that our factories and our businesses are stocked and supplied, and we don't run out of stuff, and we build it as well as we possibly can, because we want people to recognize One Small Town products as the best quality products in the world. So when they see that One Small Town logo on something, they'll know, okay, I want to buy this instead of that product. First of all, I know that this, when it has a One Small Town logo on it, it actually means that this business belongs to that community, right? A majority share of this business actually belongs to the community whose logo appears on this, right? This is very important. It's not we'll make a donation of 5% towards a charity of your, no, none of that crap, which is all a scam, by the way. You should know that by now, right? So suddenly everything changes. People recognize the One Small Town logo and know that the name of the town that appears is a minimum 60% shareholder in that company. It could be a 90% shareholder in that company, right? If we as a community fund that business. And that changes everything. Now, because we as the community, as the members, are doing all the work and the labor, from the specialized labor to the menial labor, the carrying, the delivering, the security, the holding, the fetching, and the sweeping, the cleaning, and all that kind of stuff. Our labor costs in our businesses are much, much lower than the labor costs of the same kind of business that is outside of a One Small Town environment. Now, any factory, any major manufacturing business or a factory, the labor costs of the monthly labor costs of the monthly operating costs are anything between 50 to 80%. All depends what kind of business it is. If it's a hands-on, labor-intensive business, the monthly operating costs, because of the labor costs, can take up as much up to 80%. It's crazy. Down to 50%, down to 30%, all depends on what kind of business it is. But labor costs are always one of the largest costs that most factories and manufacturing companies face today. And this is why there's such a drive towards automation around the world. Automation is the enemy of one small town. We will use automation where it benefits us, but we're not going to use automation where it takes away the work from our members so that we can contribute and lower the manufacturing costs, right? Very important. So we'll use automation as cleverly and as smartly as we choose to use it. It's not going to be forced upon any of our small towns. So now, if you're an investor and you suddenly faced with an investment into a furniture shop outside of one small town or a furniture shop in a small town environment, by now you should already see the vast differences and the vast benefits by investing into the one outside of one small town as opposed to the one inside of one small town. So if that penny hasn't dropped for you yet, let me spell it out for you. If you invest into a one small town business, let's stick with a furniture shop. First of all, you're going into partnership with an entire community, right? Not some individual that is the owner of that shop or that is, funding that shop or running that shop. You are investing into a business that is co-owned by the community. This is a huge difference. So you're not going to get, stabbed in the back by some schmuck that does you in or screws you over, which often business partnerships and investments, that's what they end up on the rocks because of that kind of horrible business practices and shysters, right? Con artists and so forth. So in the one small town initiative, you're not going to lose your investment or lose your whatever. Everything is transparent. The platform provides you as an investor with complete transparency, and you'll see exactly the flow of your funds and your investments. See exactly when they land in the account, how it's allocated according to the business plan, according to the project management plan, according to the accounting system, according to it goes into the bank account, and how the funds from your investment get allocated every month to the specific areas that require the funding based on your business plan. And you as an investor can watch it every step of the way. That's how the One Small Town platform was built and created. And that's why so many people are starting to realize how powerful this tool really is. There's nothing else like it. Secondly, you're not only going into partnership with an entire community, which means that every member of that community is going to do their best to make sure that your business is a success. The business that you invested in is going to be a success because our members are going to make sure it's a bloody success, right? For the reasons I just mentioned a few minutes ago. Thirdly, because we as members are doing all the work, there are very few labor costs. There are no menial labor costs. So you as an investor could save yourself between 30 to 80% of monthly operating costs that come back to you in the form of profits. So your profit yield in a one small town furniture shop, as opposed to the profits in a non-one small town furniture factory, will be much higher from the one small town furniture factory because of the savings that you as an investor makes on the labor that we as members of that one small town contribute towards all the businesses, including your business as an investor into that business. Now imagine if you are the investor into 20 or 30 or 100 businesses, how that changes the landscape. It's a beautiful thing. And I said it last week and I'll say it again. There's going to come a time when the conscious multimillionaires and conscious billionaires are going to realize the real benefits of taking a small town and investing a few $100 million or whatever currency you have into that town and making sure you take control of the technology investments, the agricultural investments, the education investments, everything. You invest into all the different sectors because you're investing and you go into partnership with that community. You're diversifying your investments and you maximizing your profitability because of the lower labor costs. If you had to invest that money into those businesses outside of one small town, you'd be making between 30 and 80% less in profits. That's what this ultimately amounts to. That's why I love it so much, and that's why more and more people are starting to gravitate towards this on a daily, a weekly, and a monthly basis, realizing how powerful this is. So the moment these multimillionaires and billionaires realize the power of investing into small towns, I believe we're going to see a stampede of millionaires and billionaires to invest into small towns and grab the next small town that they believe they can make a profit from. And that will change their way they think about small towns. It'll change their relationship with the communities. It'll change the relationship. It'll change the look and feel of that town and that community. It'll turn into a beautiful place, a utopian place of prosperity over a period of time. It's not going to be overnight, but it's certainly going to happen. And before you know, 5 years, 10 years from now, we're going to have who knows how many small towns that are beautiful examples of these utopian communities that were funded by one or two, or number of individuals, potentially some of them funded by one individual who wanted to make sure they did it the right way. So, and again, because you're going into that partnership with a community, you as a community can decide whose investment you will accept or whose investment you will not accept. Okay, you're making that decision as your ambassador and your community and your council of the people's council. You can decide. If you don't like a specific investor, if you know that it's a globalist with ulterior motives, you can say no. You can say no to Bill Gates. If Bill Gates comes and says, I'll invest $200 million into your town, you can say, thank you very much, but we're not interested in your money. And that's how you take control, because there'll be somebody else that'll want to invest into your town. Secondly, so those are the benefits of the investors. So you partner with a community because of the reduction of labor, you get higher profits. And then obviously diversified investment portfolio into all kinds of different activities. It's a safe and secure investment. Probably, in my opinion, far safer, especially if you're investing into food security and agriculture, far safer than putting your money on the stock exchange with potential crashes and so forth. So that's the benefits to the investors. Okay, we've gone way past an hour now. So now that brings me to the One Small Town stores. That's going to be the next topic. Now, One Small Town store, it has become really one of the critical cornerstones of the One Small Town initiative. Because once we start growing food and building fridges and bicycles and cars and laptops and whatever else we grow and build in our community, first of all, we need a place to store it. It needs to go into a storeroom somewhere. And secondly, we need to sell it, right? So the food is an obvious thing, right? We need food, so we need to eat every day, every week, every month. So the One Small Town store as a depository of the food that we grow is a no-brainer. But that then says that, okay, well, we could use the store not only as a retail store for products that we grow, not only as a store where our members come get their monthly goods, the monthly allocation or the basket of goods that they come and get from our One Small Town store. Remember that every member gets allocated a basket of goods from the goods that we produce and the food we grow and so forth. So there's an allocation of goods to our members that you go to the One Small Town store every month to get your allocated basket of goods, whatever it is for that month. It'll change. It'll be different every month based on how we decide, how you decide, you and your ambassador and your team and your community, how you decide how you want to allocate the goods that you manufacture and produce, including food. Okay. So we're not going to dictate that. I'm not going to dictate that. You're going to decide that. So the store is, first of all, a place where, people get their basket of goods. Secondly, it becomes a place where we make the goods available to our members who have additional tokens. The One Small Town store works with tokens only. We don't work with cash or any fiat currency because we choose to do that, right? So our members can go to the One Small Town store and trade anything they want. For example, if you are home industry and you make jams and whatever, canned goods and preserved goods and so forth, you can take your goods to the store and you can trade it for tokens. They'll calculate the value. I'm not going to go into how we calculate the value because that'll change from country to country based on what currency you have and what value of that currency is equivalent to 3 hours of labor. So there's a slightly more complicated. It's not complicated. It's a unique formula that you'll use in each country. Actually, the formula is the same. It'll just be different based on the currency you use in your country. And then you'll calculate what the value of that item is that you want to trade into the store, put on the shelves. It could be clothing, it could be, car parts, it could be clothes, it could be anything, food, etc., etc. The farmers can bring their stuff and put it there as well if we don't have an agreement with the farmers. So the store literally becomes a proper trading store in the true sense of the word, a trading store, the One Small Town trading store. Okay, very important. So you can take all your stuff there. They'll calculate the value. Then they'll calculate how many tokens is the value in your current currency. And then they'll give you those tokens. So now you have in your digital wallet, because you're a One Small Town member. Everyone that comes to the One Small Town store has to be a One Small Town member because that's where our members come and get their benefits. So if you want to use the store, you sign up to be a member and then you can use the store for all this activity, right? Even the people that want to place their stuff on the shelves, they have to become a member because we're going to be giving them, or you, when I say we, I mean you, us collectively, One Small Town members that run those towns, right? So you're going to be giving them tokens. So they need a digital wallet. They need to be a member with their own digital wallet to be able to receive their tokens in their digital wallet. You see, so it's a closed system. It's a membership-driven reward system and trading system. So now we have a store filled with goods, not only filled with goods that we bring in and trade, but also filled with goods that we buy in as a community. So a certain percentage of funds and profits that we make in our community every month, we decide how much of the money that we make, profits we make, how much of that are we going to allocate towards buying supplies for our store, the One Small Town trading store. So we're going to buy corn flour and, bread and whatever we feel is necessary. That'll differ from store to store, every community, from one community to another. It'll differ completely. So you then decide what you need to buy so that your members, if they need staple food, the things that people eat as a staple diet in your country or in your area, that you make sure you've got enough of that food on the shelves. And that's where some of the profits become absolutely critical. And that's where the cornerstone projects become so critical. The cornerstone projects, if you remember from last week, the cornerstone businesses are businesses that you set up as the ambassador and as the community to make profits, to fund all the cornerstone activities to make One Small Town a success. And one of those cornerstone activities is the One Small Town store. Once you have a successful One Small Town store and it runs seamlessly and fluently with a supply of goods and food and products, and our members coming to use it using their tokens and getting their monthly basket of goods and so forth, coming to trade their things that they don't need for things that they need, we have created an entire alternative trading retail environment that operates outside of the control of the current fiat currency system. We use the profits from our for-profit businesses to make sure that our store is well stocked. And because our members have contributed towards the well-being of our community, the well-being and the profitability of our businesses, that's why they can use their tokens to come and trade those tokens for the produce on our shelves. And that changes everything, especially in countries where there is, high levels of unemployment, high levels of poverty, and high levels of people have nothing to do. They literally wake up and they don't know what to do. That changes everything. Suddenly, from being unemployed and wondering what you're going to eat today, you become a One Small Town member. You contribute your 3 hours a day towards one of the projects or businesses. You get your token every day, plus you go get your plate of food at the community kitchen after you've contributed your 3 hours, right? That community kitchen could be connected to the One Small Town store. That's up to you how you set it up. This could be a wonderfully creative process of designing this and planning it and making sure that there's a kitchen that serves a wonderful area that serves our members, and there's also potential to expand to become a tourist attraction in a wonderful open air arena where there might be a stage where our local artists can come and perform at lunchtime for the tourist buses and so forth. So you can see how this thing can grow. You need to think out of the box. You need to be creative. Anything is possible, right? I keep saying that. So I keep mentioning this just to plant some seeds so that you and your members and your people, when you start talking about this, you've got some ideas already and take it from there. I'm sure you'll have many, many more ideas. Okay. I think like this, you'll probably start thinking way outside of the box. So I'll keep giving ideas and share ideas and plant some seeds. You can take it to a whole nother level, right? When you start planning this yourselves. So, and that's what makes it so exciting. Every town, every community will be completely different. So the community store, the One Small Town store, Cornerstone Project funds the supply of the goods for the shelves. Now suddenly the people that have nothing to do, they have nothing, they wake up, they receive a token every day for contributing 3 hours, plus they get a plate of food from the One Small Town food kitchen, which is also stocked from some of the profits that we make in our cornerstone businesses, right? That's another thing that the cornerstone businesses must fund, must ensure that there's enough food provided to the community kitchen so we can cook delicious food, not just for our members, but for potential tourists that stop and want to embrace this amazing, community spirit. And now you've worked for a week, you've worked for a day, you get a plate of good food, either at lunchtime or at the end of the day. So already you've taken care of a huge problem that, as somebody who doesn't have a job, doesn't have any money, you got no money, no job. Now suddenly you have a plate of food and you have a token that you can go and trade for something at the One Small Town store. At the end of the week, you're going to have 7 tokens that you can go and trade. At the end of the month, you might end up with 30 tokens. Now suddenly you have something to trade. But not only can you go to the store and trade and get things you need from the store, plus your basket of goods. Remember, you'll be getting profits from the One Small Town businesses as well. That'll be going to you. So you'll be getting fiat cash, fiat currency as well, right? But now you can also use your tokens with your digital wallet to exchange things with other people, not just in the One Small Town store. Somebody might have a bicycle and you might say, listen, I need a bicycle to get to this job or something, or a little motorbike. So how much do you want for that little motorbike? You say, give me 20 tokens or 50 tokens. You say, cool, here's 50 tokens. You send it to the digital wallet. They give you the motorbike. And that's it. So it's the way that Bitcoin was used in the beginning, that people were using Bitcoin to trade and exchange stuff. We've created a stable, uncrashable system that is global. It's a private membership system. No one can steal your tokens. No one can crash them. It's a private thing. You've got your digital wallet. You can trade and share and exchange anything you want with any other member anywhere in the world. So the importance of the One Small Town store is absolutely critical, and I cannot stress that enough. It will become a whole new distribution network. Imagine when we have 10,000 small towns around the world. and every small town is producing different things, and they need to distribute it and sell it and share it. The one small town store in every community could become a distribution network or a distribution hub and a warehouse for the products that are manufactured in other countries, in other small towns around the world. So we're not only creating an interconnected network of members, one small town members around the world that all use the same Infinity token, that can share their tokens instantly without, out of sight, out of mind of any prying eyes. You can trade and exchange anything you want in privacy and secret. And you can, whatever you manufacture in your small town or produce, you now have a global network and an export network with export specialists that will specialize in exporting our one small town products to the rest of the world. You'll have all of this at your disposal so that your products and your produce and whatever it is can be exported to all the different countries, and from there distributed to all the different small towns, to their one small town stores that become the distribution hub for those products to that town and the surrounding communities. This is just an absolutely mind-blowing system and a network that we've created here that does not exist in the world today. So that's why I've been very excited about the One Small Town store. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time and planning and, again, coding and programming. We've got all the systems. The One Small Town platform already has the capacity for warehousing, for retailing, for stock taking, for distribution and sales and all of these things. We already have it in the One Small Town platform. Excuse me. We're just going to need to fine-tune it and make it applicable and useful without any glitches or hiccups. So every day we get closer, right? Every day we get closer. So, wow, we've done 1 hour and 20, nearly 25 minutes. Now I need to get to some of these questions. For that, I need to just minimize this window. So let me just minimize that and open my Word document. Okay, I'm going to start with the last question that came in today. And this question is from Mario. Mario asked 2 questions. Can one small town be implemented as a group of people scattered around different locations, as opposed to all living in the same village or town? More like a network of people around the world. Mario, the answer to that is yes and no. First of all, we're called One Small Town because we want to initiate this feeling of unity and belonging and camaraderie and cooperation and feeling of belonging to a community that takes care of itself. This is really important, that we reestablish strong community where people take care of each other and know each other and support each other, come hell or high water. And we see this more and more in the small towns. Small towns, people come together a lot quicker than in the cities. So One Small Town is about launching in the small towns and communities. However, the second part of that will evolve over the next year or 2 or so will be people that live in cities and in metropolitan areas that have certain skills that may not exist in small towns. But these people become members. They're members of One Small Town. They just don't live in an active small town. And these One Small Town members, whether it's in New York, London, or Sydney, or Johannesburg, or anywhere in the world, they can contribute their skills, whether it's legal skills or graphic design skills or architectural skills or anything that can be done remotely. They can provide those services to any other One Small Town member around the world. Those services will be provided on the same basis, 3 hours. And for every 3 hours, they'll charge 1 token. So that's it. So it'll be the standard model: 3 hours, 1 token. And this is why the value of the token is probably going to go up, because of the value that's provided by these different people with very, very specific skills. Actually, I may have misquoted myself there. the members can decide how much they're going to want, how many tokens they're going to want, but it's going to be in 3 hour shifts, right? So some people might choose to pay more than one token. So I apologize for that. There's just been so much going on, and so many evolutions and shifts and so forth. So at this stage, this is why that contribution of services by people that are not in a one small town situation. We're still working on that, and that'll become the next phase of how one small town members that live in metropolitan areas can participate and earn tokens and provide their services. So let me not get into the details before I get myself into trouble here. How that's going to work, we're fine-tuning that and working on it. And again, we take advice from anybody. And then next question is, do you have any ambassadors in Cyprus? Short answer to that is no. We have no ambassador in Cyprus at the moment. Then from Glenda Rodriguez. Glenda, hi, Michael. Can you please talk about the tokens? Is it imperative to buy the tokens? What are they used for? Is it like a one small town investment? Thanks in advance. So, Glenda, I hope that I've already answered some of those questions about the one small town token. We're going to run out of time here now, but one small town token is the membership, one small town membership asset-backed community token that we as members will use to trade and exchange things, and especially to use in the one small town store environment. If you do live in a one small town environment, where you can go to the one small town store and use your digital wallet to get stuff off the shelf with paying with tokens, right? Very important. So what happens is that those tokens are going to become more and more sought after once we've sold out the first 22.5 million, because I think we started with 24 million. We have like 22.5 million tokens left. Once those 22 million tokens are sold, we will have no more tokens to sell as the One Small Town head office. So again, I went through this last week, so that you can look at the Infinity token as an investment if you want to, but we don't call it an investment because that will, we don't want to get into trouble with any of the authorities, because it's not an investment. It is a private membership, asset-backed community token that will have a value because we use it ourselves, right? So once we've sold those first 22 million tokens that are left now, there'll be no more tokens left. And the only tokens available at that stage will be from members who want to sell their tokens, who make them available on the One Small Town platform to sell their tokens. But if our members choose not to sell the tokens because they want to hold on to them, like people hold on to Bitcoin, again, we're not a cryptocurrency. I'm using that as an example. Okay. So people might want to hold on to their Infinity tokens and not sell them. So they might become scarce and nobody's going to want to sell their tokens. So the only way to earn an Infinity token in future may be by contributing 3 hours towards a One Small Town community, doing something for your community, right? So keep that in mind. So yes, the tokens will be a very valuable tool in your hands. And the more tokens you have in your digital wallet, the more you'll be able to trade and exchange. You might be able to trade a car for tokens, and the person just transfers the car into your name. You might be able to buy a house if you have enough tokens. Person just transfers the house in your name. Nobody knows that you've paid for it. You've paid for it with tokens, and nobody knows about it. Somebody just transferred the house into your name. So keep this in mind. The Infinity token is an incredibly powerful tool. If the banks had to close their doors tomorrow, when the One Small Town initiative is up and running and everything is running and operating smoothly, we won't be affected as One Small Town members in our towns if the banks had to close their doors. We just continue working and operating using our tokens as a reward system, because we'll have so many different things that we grow, food and other things that we manufacture. We'll have all that available. And right, so next question. This next question is from Anya. How are you going to ensure that bureaucracy doesn't shut down the initiative? Very good question. Anya, first of all, remember, it's a community. We choose what businesses we start, and that is based on business plans that we draw. And if the business plan is a successful business plan, if it shows good, return on investment and good profits, then you as a member can load it onto the platform, and then you as a community can help raise the funding for that business. So the One Small Town initiative cuts bureaucracy completely out of this. Remember, we're not dealing with government. We're not getting permission from government. We're not getting permission from municipalities. We might have to get permits and licenses in areas of manufacturing or whatever, where permits and licenses are necessary. But otherwise, all the decisions that kind of businesses that we start are made by us, made by our members, and we put it into place. So, and the role of the ambassador is to ensure that as many of the businesses and as many of the business plans that are successful, that make a good profit, that they are pushed through, and that they are implemented, and that they are launched and successfully funded. That's part of the role and responsibility of the ambassador. And if the ambassador doesn't perform their duty, then the community can vote to have that ambassador replaced. So again, a very important part. So bureaucracy really doesn't play a role. It will play a very tiny little role where you might find a situation where a government starts to play silly tricks with us and withholds permits or licenses and things like that. That's the only way that bureaucracy can sort of trip us up. But we manifest that that's not going to be the case. We manifest that those in charge will use this to gloat and to say, look how well my country is doing. Look what a good leader I am. Look how well my towns are doing. And so the politicians will use the One Small Town initiative to gloat about it and to say that, they've made sure that these towns thrive and so forth, so they get re-elected. So in some ways, the One Small Town could potentially play a very beneficial role in turning politicians' minds and mindsets around from where they are today. All right. And speeding things up, cutting bureaucratic red tape, the way that Vivek and Elon want to do in the USA right now. That's going to be a very exciting phase, and I hope that all the other countries follow suit. There was another question. I forgot who this was from, and we've now gone way over an hour and a half. I think this will be the last question. It says the UN has a 2030 Sustainable Development Goal, and heavily in local communities, etc. Globally, nobody in those communities got voted for them, and yet most don't know anything about them at all. Your program seems to be based on the same communitarian principles embraced by the UN. What is your affiliation with the UN exactly, if any? And the answer to that is a resounding no. We have no affiliation to the UN whatsoever. We don't like the UN. Personally, I'm not a fan of the UN. The One Small Town initiative is a completely independent initiative that I started nearly 20 years ago. We have grown with beautiful people around the world, humanitarians. We have no affiliation to any of these United Nations or World Health Organization or World Economic Forum or any of those. If anybody starts to spread that kind of nonsense, they are lying, and they're just spreading lies about us, and they're trying to undermine the success of One Small Town. One Small Town is owned by you and your community. I don't run and manage anything. We've just been putting together the platform and the systems and the structures and the management systems so that you and your community can set your One Small Town successfully without people ripping you off, with investors feeling safe and secure with investments into your community, so that you can create successful businesses with the highest possible profits and fix your towns up and turn your town into this beautiful utopian town that I've been talking about. So that's what this is all about. Nothing to do with the UN. I hope I made that as clear as I possibly can. And I think on that note and that question, I'm going to close off here today. And just to say thank you very much for watching. Thank you on Facebook, and thank you on YouTube. And I'll see you again next week with another One Small Town podcast, number 7. Next week, We'll forget the date. Oh, by the way, I'll be traveling next week. I'll be traveling to be with my family on Christmas. So what I will do, I will record the podcast the day before, because I won't be able to do that on Wednesday. I'll be traveling all day. I'll record the podcast and I will share that with you on Facebook and on YouTube on Wednesday in the correct time slot, because I won't be able to do it live. All right, I will answer more questions. So if you have questions, go online, go to FAQs on our website and fill your question in there, and I'll try and get to it next week. All right, look forward to it. Until then, bye for now.